Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Darren Ganji and I'm here with my co-host John Sable. And back in June, I did a first look at the next level motion platform by Pagnian. Since then, John and I have both put this platform through its paces and are here to do our final review on it.
We're not going to go over all the specs because we did so in our first look, and we invite you to watch the video in case you missed it. We have an annotation link here in the video that you can click to watch it, or just check out the link in the description.
So the motion platform retails for $2,800 in North America, $1,695 British pounds, or 3,000 Australian dollars in that region of the world. You can get it by going to Pagnian.com and choosing the distributor that's closest to your location. All 3 locations are currently out of stock and the platform is only available for pre-order.
The first thing we're going to do is answer some questions that you guys in the community had about the platform. First up is, how loud is it? For starters, we're going to let you be the judge. We're going to run the platform with headphones so there's no other sound in the room besides it.
Now, here's how it sounds with speakers running at a decent level in Dirt Rally. The next question we get asked is, can it be used with other chassis besides the GT Ultimate? It can be done, but something to consider is that it needs to be slightly elevated so the cam mechanism that's connected to the actuators can clear the ground. If your chassis has uprights like these on the GT Ultimate, it should fit without a problem. I would think though, if you wanted to make it work, it can be done. The main connection from the motion platform to the seat is through the adjustment rails that are found on most seats. I'm actually considering bolting it up to my JCL 2B Faster extrusion tubing rig because it should mount perfectly down there.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Now on to performance. Since June, we've been testing the platform on a number of titles, including Assetto Corsa, Dirt Rally, F1 2014 and 15, GP bikes, iRacing, Live for Speed, and Project Cars. In just about every title, it works great and adds another level of immersion to some titles even more than others.
I agree. Now you had a complaint though on the oval side of things.
I did. My only complaint with the platform is when it comes to racing on oval, specifically iRacing. Because in that situation, you're turning left and the seat's really pitching you to the right.
Right.
And probably pitching you the full 10 degrees of motion that it has that direction.
Right.
So I would...
And basically simulating the G-forces.
It's simulating G-forces, which I understand it just gets kind of difficult in an oval race where you're turning left constantly.
Well, and if you think about it, when you're sitting in a car, and you've actually gone at high speeds on an oval. Mm-hmm. I never have. But when you're going around an oval, you know, your body is leaning that direction, mm-hmm. but the G-forces are pulling you that direction.
Yes, that direction even more so down.
Yeah, so in the seat, it's really causing the G-forces to pivot the seat this way, mm-hmm. versus, you know, if you were going around an oval, the banking is going to tilt the whole car like that, mm-hmm. you know, and the G-forces are going to be pulling you, like you said, down and out and towards the wall.
Yep.
So that's always been one of my issues or complaints, or just in my head thinking, well, how's it going to simulate oval tracks?
Yeah.
You know, and where road courses you don't really, you may have it for just a split second, you know, depending on which road. Like if you're actually, could be a problem if you're running like a Daytona road course.
Sure, could be.
Because you got all that banking that you're riding on. But that's really one of both of our complaints is when it comes to ovals. And I was talking to John, what we should just do is just turn that axis off or down really low so it may just tilt a little bit, mm-hmm. just to give you the sensation like it's kind of pulling that direction.
Yeah.
And just leave all the other ones for the, you know, the road feel and mm-hmm. stuff like that on.
Exactly.
But how do you, without really getting G-forces, mm-hmm. how could any rig simulate that? It's almost impossible.
It really is.
It is. Physics don't allow it to be possible.
You have to have a simulator that's moving.
Yeah.
And those are $1 million plus simulators that, you know, all these giant car manufacturers have.
Yeah, and I think I've seen a video or something of Toyota's got one like in a building that's like a mile by a mile or something, and the simulator actually goes around inside the whole building. I don't know how fast, and I don't know how many G's it could actually generate. Think about it, I had to be moving pretty fast to generate more than a G. I mean, it almost had to be like on a roller coaster.
Yeah, it'd have to be some hydraulic system where it could really take off.
Right. And really go around a corner fast to give you that centrifugal force, pushing you outward. So anyway, and again, I think that's going to be the issue with any motion seat or platform, because it's just not generating G-forces.
Correct.
So John mentioned we tried it with GP bikes. I saw it as one of the profiles, and I'm like, oh, that could be really cool. Riding a motorcycle. And so I hooked up an Xbox gamepad and tried it out, and it just didn't live up to my expectations. I've ridden a motorcycle extensively. I used to have one, so I know what it feels like to street bike. I've done track days on it, but it didn't feel right to me. But I'd say out of everything we tried it with, besides the complaint we had on the ovals, it felt great. But in GP bikes, it just felt kind of clunky.
Yeah. Besides the slider adjustments, you can fine-tune scripts to really dial things in the way you want. We found that on most titles, you can just adjust the sliders.
Yeah, and the small issues aside, the Next Level Motion platform really can enhance your sim racing experience. You can tune it to the extreme and really get thrown around, or add just enough to trick your brain into thinking you're in a real car. You can feel every bump, rumble strip, gear shift, and impact on the track.
Now let's wrap things up with the pros and cons. First up, the cons. Our first con is it's expensive. At $2,800, our first choice for the money would probably be an AccuForce wheel and a set of Hussenfeld pedals. As cool as the platform is, these two items would add more to your sim racing experience and enhance immersion. The next con is compatibility, because it is mainly set up to work with the GT Ultimate, but can be adapted to other rigs. They're supposed to be coming out with a new version that can be fitted to most rigs on the market though.
Next cons, it's on back order, and it's currently not in stock at any of the distributors. And it makes a little noise, so if you live upstairs in an apartment environment, you may disturb your neighbors.
And this con is a little nitpicky, but the software scroll bar is backwards.
Yeah, and what we mean by that is, you're used to using your mouse to scroll in Windows or whatever, and when you click and drag on something and you're going down, you expect it to go down. In that scroll bar, it goes up, and vice versa. So it gets a little confusing, but again, it's kind of a nitpicky con. Still works fine. The software works great.
And our last con is what we talked about earlier when it comes to oval racing and having the G-forces push you out to the right when the track has banking would lean you to the left.
Which, again, every motion platform is going to have that con.
Yeah, I think the only way to fix that is if in the software somewhere they had an adjustment where you could change, instead of having the G-force, where you have it adjust per the banking.
Yes.
And I think that would be a nice addition. That could be a nice just on-off toggle.
Which, that actually goes to one of our pros, and we're going to get to the pros now, so I'll just add this to it, and it's in our list of pros, is that you can create a unique profile per car and track combination. So, like John was mentioning, let's say you're using iRacing, you can create a profile for, let's say, a GT car. And then you want to make a profile for driving the trucks, and you're at Michigan or something with some, pretty steep banking. Like John mentioned, it would be great to have an adjustment to change the lean of the G-forces. Because honestly, I'd rather have it leaning this way. So it's almost like you got to reverse that axis, for oval racing. Which, I don't know, it could get kind of confusing a little bit too, because there's certain times where you want it to, like let's say it starts stepping out on you. You want it, that axis to, because you don't have yaw.
Correct.
So you basically are having the lean. So I could see it getting a little confused, but it would be nice to have that option to be able to tune it. And you do. Again, that's one of the pros, is that you can tune it per car and per track. A couple more pros, it's plug and play. We pretty much just plug this thing in and play. It can take a little tuning depending on the car and track you're driving, but for the most part, you don't really need to do much.
Yeah, right out of the box, it feels really good with pretty much everything we tried before, besides a couple that we talked about.
Yeah. And again, some may need a little bit of dialing in, tweaking here and there, but again, for the most part, they all feel great. And it enhances your sim racing experience.
Another pro is that it's compatible with just about every title on the market, new, old, and even flight sims. Another pro is its compact design. It doesn't take up nearly as much space compared to other motion simulators. And we mentioned that it's a little noisy as a con, but compared to other motion simulators on the market, it's a bit quieter.
Yeah, it's fairly quiet. It's not bad. Mainly I was saying that if you're living above somebody, I could see, and it's not even the actuator noise, it's just the motion noise. Because like when you're walking above somebody, you can hear that. Mm-hmm. So I could just imagine that if you're living above somebody and that thing's moving, mm-hmm. you could probably hear it. But yeah, sitting next to it, it's fairly quiet, so it's not bad. It's relatively affordable compared to the competition. They regularly update the software to add support and enhance titles. And the final pro is the motion seems to have virtually no lag, so it matches up to what you're seeing on the screen. So why don't we wrap things up with some final thoughts? John, you go first.
Yeah, overall, I'd say I really enjoy the Next Level Motion platform. It feels really convincing. That's one thing that I'd never tried out a motion platform before this one, and I was really worried that it would throw me around too much.
Throw you into the wheel too much?
Yeah, that. And I was also really worried about lag. And I mean, for the most part, I didn't really notice any input lag. It seemed like when something happened on screen, I was feeling it.
Go over a bump, you go over a rumble strip, mm-hmm. you're feeling it.
Mm-hmm. Which made it really great in titles like Dirt Rally.
Yeah.
Like having it moving around while doing that is just perfect.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, honestly, this platform is much better than I expected. Mm-hmm. When these guys told me that this thing was coming, and by the way, I'd like to thank Next Level, the guys at Next Level, for sending it to us to review. When they told me it was coming, I definitely had reservations because I've tried a bunch of different motion systems. One of my biggest complaints is that I've never got to dial one in the way I wanted it. Almost every one I've tried has been more like a roller coaster ride than enhancing my experience. But I also knew that if I had time with it, like I really had a lot of time with the sim experience, stage 5, and I really started to dial things in the way I liked, and it really enhanced my experience. Before that, and even at E3 this last year, I drove that Forza 6, and I was just, I couldn't focus. I was just bouncing all over the place, and I even told the guys at VRX, I'm like, man, you guys got to tune that thing down. Mm-hmm. I said, it's just too much, it's distracting. This is not distracting.
No.
This platform, even in the plug and play out of the box, where some of the effects might be a little too extreme, and you just, again, with a quick, there's only 5 sliders to adjust.
Yeah.
But just tuning them down a little bit, you can get rid of the extreme motion, and it really enhances the experience. I mean, like Dirt Rally is one of my favorites to run it with. And even going back to Live for Speed, I booted that up the other night, and I was thinking, oh, how good is this going to be? It felt friggin' great. It enhanced my Live for Speed, which is a very dated title. They haven't done much in it since 2008, but it felt great in that. iRacing, it feels great. F1 2015, I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great experience in that. So, bottom line for me, my final thoughts is that I think if you, and going back to that, we'd buy an AccuForce and a Husingveld set of pedals. Now, to add to that too a little bit, if you have a wheel and pedal set that you already like, and you want to take that money, your hobby income, on something new, and you have that much to spend, I think this would be a great addition. Again, if you have a set of pedals and wheel that you already like, why upgrade them?
Exactly.
Where this really takes things to the next level as far as immersion goes. By giving you a little more seat of the pants feel.
Yep.
Which is what, a lot of us are missing. So, anything else before we go?
No, I mean, I just want to reiterate that this is a really solid motion platform, and if you don't have a whole lot of space, it's really a great option.
Yeah, I agree. And again, it can be adapted to other rigs. I've seen like an Abuto Revolution with one. I think an R-Seat RS1 would probably fit it because it's got those uprights. And again, they're making a new version of it where it's going to be compatible with a lot of other chassis. I'm curious to see what they're going to do there, too.
Yeah, that'd be real interesting to see.
I think you would come up with an idea to put it up on, have like legs or something for it, or some kind of stand.
Yeah, I feel like if they put it on legs and then maybe allowed some way that you can connect it to the front end of multiple simulators, that maybe that'd be the best way to go.
Yep, I agree. So that's going to wrap things up. Hopefully you've enjoyed our look at the next level motion platform by Pagnian. Again, you can visit them at pagnian.com if you want to check it out, and you get one, tell them the guys at Inside Sim Racing sent you. So for John Sable, I'm Darren Ganji. We'll see you guys next time.